Well, if you've been following my channel, you know I've been prepping for an emergency that is accumulating food, water, and uh, the ability to cook that food. Um, so let me. So Milton hit and did some damage. We've been out of power. Power's been off for 4 or 5 days, and likely to be out maybe until the 18th. So let me discuss what I found out. This was a good test run for my prepping. The best news of all was my little alcohol stove. It exceeded my expectations tremendously. Of course, I'm using that inside, well ventilated, but inside, so I don't have any problems with wind um, distracting from its heating capability. But I found it'll boil 2 quarts of water with less than 3 ounces of alcohol fuel. And it does it relatively quick, about 15 minutes, and I got a rolling boil. So most of my meals, emergency or not, are generally rice and something. And that's the way I did my canning, anticipating that I would put that into rice and have rice and something. So that's worked out very, very well. For coffee, I do sawmill coffee, which is basically put a tablespoon of coffee grounds in the water, let it boil, and then filter it into my cup. And that makes some really wicked strong coffee. I like strong coffee. So if I required cream in my coffee, I would have had to have stocked up on some non-dairy creamer because my refrigerator's been out long enough that food's probably going to have to be thrown away. But one of the purposes of doing so much canning was to not rely on the freezer and the refrigerator so much. So if I lose everything in both, I'm probably out $25–30 in food. And I got still got about a 3 month supply or 2 month supply for 3 meals a day of canned goods, maybe more. Sort of lost track. Plus I have some store-bought cans, and that's not included in that count at all. So at any rate, everything that was very good. Some things that I've learned that I'll do better next time. Fortunately, we never lost our water or sewage, so the water had about 9 gallons of distilled water. I don't like the taste of the water here, and if you could see what's left over in the distiller after it runs a gallon of that, you'd understand why I don't like the water to drink or cook with. But otherwise, it's fine. Don't have any hot water because I have no power. I'm able to make this video because I have a EcoFlow Delta 2, which I guess is one of the smallest versions they make. I'm fortunate in that I do have some people about a mile away who have power. So I run it down there and recharge it and bring it back. The disappointing thing is that 200-watt solar panel that I bought for that is going to be it'll only be useful when everything else is done. Everything else fails or whatever. I did order today a small gasoline generator. And I wanted it small because the only thing I will use it for is to recharge the battery in the EcoFlow. which means that thing charges so fast. It means probably I'll have to run it maybe an hour in a 24-hour period. So as long as I have 2, 3, 4 gallons of fuel, that should last a good while before I have to resort to trying to make the solar panels do any good at all. Um, but everything else went pretty much to plan. I've got some dried powder milk, which has no fat content. I guess I could use that to whiten the coffee if I needed to do that. I've had that for a good while, and it's not stored in a vacuum, so I don't know how good that is. It's one of the things I'm going to do now because I've got so much time on my hands. Let's see. We got most of the damage here was due to flooding, which I was not expecting. My losses to my property are probably going to be $2,000 or $3,000, and I don't have flood insurance. Never anticipated the need for it. So I'll have to. It would have had a big deductible anyway, so I'm going to come out okay. I'm not going to try to get flood insurance. Several things surprised me about the neighborhood. On the whole, people were cooperative, with a few notable exceptions. There's so much power out that according to the Lakeland Power Company site, where they show how many reported outages there are, most of us here just assume that if one person reported it, everything would be fine. That is not the case because they're ranking their response based on the number of homes reporting an outage. So I reported mine last night, which is several days after the fact. I don't know how accurate their website is. I don't have a whole lot of confidence in it, but they're projecting now that power won't be back for me until the 18th, which means I will have gone over a week without power. But like I said, this is a good test of my preparedness. And so far, I'm pretty pleased. It would be different if there wasn't somebody within a mile of me where I could recharge the power supply. In that case, I would be in pretty bad way because I have no generator whatsoever. I did not want to buy a generator big enough to supply the entire house for a number of reasons. Number one, they're expensive, and it would take a lot of fuel to keep that thing running for a week or more. And so that was the reason I was willing to sacrifice the food in my refrigerator and in the refrigerator freezer because it's such a small quantity and I have so much canned food. And that's working out really, really well. Like getting back to my little $14 alcohol stove. That'll keep me going a long time. I have a gallon of 50% ethanol, and then a gallon of denatured alcohol. It was designed to be a fuel, and it's nearly 100%. So at 3 ounces per meal, it's 9 ounces a day. 10 days would be 90 ounces. Remember, I got a total of nearly 300 ounces of fuel. One thing on the 50% ethanol, that means it's 50% alcohol and 50% water. And I use perlite as my wicking medium in the stove. Perlite is used in gardening. It's basically volcanic rock crushed up, of course. And it absorbs the alcohol and water mixture, which controls the flame. I have no idea what it would do if I poured the straight alcohol right into the stove and lit that. It would certainly ignite. But then I would have nothing to control the rate of burn. So, and plus it could be tipped over and I'd have a real fire. Remember, ethanol is about as combustible as gasoline, which makes it nice because I can use my flint to light it each time. But at any rate, that's good. Now, yesterday I fell and stoved up my ribs a little bit. This is a 55 plus community, so we've got elderly people. And a good friend, the one who's allowed me to recharge my EcoFlow, she fell trying to remove some debris from around her car, which was, by the way, totaled because it went totally underwater. But she fell and banged up her knee bad enough she had to go to the hospital. So if this was a total nobody out there to help, we old folks are going to fare the worst because it's possible for us to have a medical emergency. Families with young people would be a lot better shape in terms of survival. It's just a limit of what we old folks can do. Plus, I'm diabetic, so I need insulin. And if that weren't available, I would live, but my health would deteriorate pretty quick. I'll be 78 in January. So I've had a good run. I'd like to have more, but you know, it's not like wouldn't be the tragedy of the same tragedy as a young person who died because of the emergency. I think that's about it. I may have some additional videos to follow up on some points. But I think I'll end the video here. Wherever you're at, I hope fortune treats you well, and that you're doing well. If you're down here in Florida, that's where it's at. All right. Take care. Be safe.